Coliseum of Arguments presents Titans Debate League, Clash of the Titans 1.1. The arena is opening once again, and only the strongest minds will survive. After an unforgettable first tournament, Pandemus the African Atheist fought through the battlefield of ideas and walked away with $500 in cash. But that was then. This time we're raising the stakes. $1,000, one champion, one title, one chance to prove you're the greatest debater in the league. This isn't social media arguing. This isn't trolling in the comments. This is intellectual warfare, where evidence is your weapon, logic is your shield, and every round is a fight for survival. New challengers are stepping into the arena. Veteran fan favorites are returning. Egos will fall, legends will rise. The question is, do you have what it takes to survive the Coliseum? We still have a few tournament spots available. Think you belong among the Titans? Message TitansDebateLeague@gmail.com and claim your place before the gates close. Coliseum of Arguments presents Titans Debate League, Clash of the Titans 1.1, where great minds don't just debate, they go to war. Are you not entertained? Coliseum of Arguments. Only the brave speak here.
Good morning, everybody. How we doing today? It's me, Oli from Titans Debate League, and this morning we have a special presentation today with Mr. Bennett Tanton. How you doing today, Mr. Tanton?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm fine. Today is a little different from what we be doing. Y'all know we always have different conversations, different debates, but at times we have different minds that come in and give us a little peek into some of the views that we might not have looked in, some of the topics that we dare to dive into. And Mr. Tanton is one of those guys. So rather than two people just opposing, we're going to sit here today with somebody who has worked and explored this topic in depth, took his time out. And this morning, our goal will be basically to understand what our guest has arrived at, how he arrived at those views, and get our mind off of debating all the time and just getting some information. Bennett, first I'd like to say, before we get into it, I'd like to thank you for your services for the country as a recon Marine and an Army infantryman. We sincerely appreciate it here at Titans Debate League. And today I want to tell you that I'm honored to be with you. So
My pleasure, man.
Welcome to Titans Debate League.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
So I am Bennett Tanton. I'm a father of 4 daughters, husband, veteran. I did about 10 years total active duty, partially in the Marines and then partially in the Army. I've been in law enforcement I had been in law enforcement. I kind of got out of that, decided that carrying a gun for a living was not for me anymore. Various things happened in the world, and I just wanted to dedicate myself to more helping people, because hurt people, right? So I really got into veterans mental health. Worked for the VA for years, and that just kind of, I guess you could say, made me a little kinder and gentler. So,
okay,
you know what I mean? I'm still a warrior at heart, in all of its things. I just try and fight the battle from a different angle now, right?
Yeah.
So I do a lot of research. I write. I have my own podcasts, and I just try and people understand this crazy world that we live in.
That's right. I think a lot of us out here in the world have that same thing on the mind. What led you into military services?
So it was kind of I didn't want to go to school anymore, man. I graduate. I was gonna graduate high school. I was an athlete. I played a couple different sports in high school and had been recruited to play soccer in college. I really wanted to play football in college, but I got hurt, so I couldn't do that anymore. So I transitioned to soccer. And so I was getting recruited, and it just came to this fact that I did not want to go to school anymore. So I had I saw a Marine Corps recruiter one day at my high school. He walked into the room that I was in, and he like made a beeline to me, and he had that cool Marine Corps uniform on and the dress blues. And he said, "You ever thought about joining the Marine Corps?" And I was like, "Not until right now." So then the rest is history, man. I signed a contract not that long after that, and everybody was like, "What?" So yeah, that's kind of how I fell into it, and then the rest is history, man.
Yeah, a lot of people I know, when I talk to them about that, that's how a couple of my friends joined it. They saw recruiter. I went to a couple of recruiting offices in my younger days. It didn't never get to work out for years, but sometimes it just ain't for you. Sometimes it is. But how did those experiences shape the way you investigate different subjects and difficult subjects today?
Well, so for me, I've always really been into patterns, like seeing patterns, right? And with that, it's one of the reasons I did well in reconnaissance, not besides the physical stuff, but the mental stuff. And that's all about putting together puzzles, right? And finding patterns and recognizing those across intelligence, right? Or military intelligence. So with that being said, I've always kind of had that strategic way of thinking, and it just kind of helped me. It just amplified that in me already. So I'm able to look at a strategic position from like a 50,000 foot view and be able to move those pieces in my brain. And that really does help me see, but it's also a pain in the butt because it'll send me down side rabbit holes. Like you get the squirrel shiny object syndrome, right? Where all of a sudden you're doing research on this linear thing, and all of a sudden something bright comes up over here where it's connected. And so it takes a while. So you get diverted all the time. So it helped me see those and put those patterns together. It's really amplified that in me.
Okay. I kind of have that pattern too. Like I told you, I got a books. I've actually formed an entire philosophy that I'm. So
that's
I know
what happens, man. That's what happens.
Yeah, that's what I tell everybody. Once you critically think, a lot of people don't know this. You form ideas. You immediately start forming your own philosophical view. If you put your argument or your things in the right form, then you might have a viable product.
Yeah, I think the other side of that too is being able to build that muscle in you, that discerning muscle where, like you said, critical thinking, but not being dogmatic about it. It's like you can come up with a philosophy or an idea, but if you're beholden to that and will fight to the death for it, even though it's not proven, that's kind of a problem. So it's one of those things where you have to be very discerning and malleable, like have that have the ability to accept others' information and being able to go, oh, well, actually that makes sense, right? And hearing all the arguments instead of sticking to your guns and digging your heels in. You have to be not dogmatic, and you have to be open. And I think that's a huge part of what I do too, is I will listen and talk to everyone. And I think that's something that doesn't necessarily happen in this world and right now in our culture, especially, right? We don't hear everybody's opinions, because
Right.
that's what they all are at the end of the day, right?
At
I
the
mean,
end.
we don't really know a lot
Right.
of things.
Right.
So like nothing today that I'm presenting is set in stone. It just isn't. And so at the end of the day, it's an opinion.
Right.
And now there are things as facts, right? But things that we've been taught a lot of times are not accurate. So
Correct.
you
Correct.
have
And
to be
that's
open to that.
yeah. That's what I figured out. That it's all opinions, no matter how good you form your argument.
Yeah,
Even if you have a lot of evidence, there's still some people who going disagree with it,
exactly.
and so
Yes.
the arguments, especially philosophically and theologically,
Yeah.
are gonna go on for a long time until we can find a viable way. And so, like you said, it's the critical thinking part that I actually like. And then when I find people that, because like you said, those rabbit holes lead to other things. One thing that I argue from, in my view, real quick, is intelligibility. That's the first thing of it. So if we want an intelligible answer, then, and me arguing from there gave me a way to be unbiased when I was looking and researching over all the ideas
Yeah.
that I've come up with. And so, yeah, that's another podcast though. But
It is.
many people know you today because of your podcast and research. How did that journey begin for you?
So I've actually been podcasting since 2014. Not with this podcast. This is a whole new iteration, which is about 2 years old, a little bit older, but not about 2 years. But I started with a couple different podcasts that were all military centric. One of them was Marine centric, and then the other one was more of a space where we like try to help veterans transition, a lot of mental health work, stuff like that. But then so I got out of both of those ventures, and about 3 years ago, I was like, man, I can't get this podcasting stuff out of my blood. I really enjoy it because it's a self-created soapbox, right? That you can just say what you want to say and put it out there. So about 3 years ago, I was like, man, what if I really like, what do I want to talk about? And what it started as actually was a Sasquatch or Bigfoot podcast. Lo and behold, that would take me again. We're talking about rabbit holes, right? And
Right.
again, it would take me down this rabbit hole more towards a biblical foundation for all of this stuff. And that's kind of where I'm at today. Is I'd say 90% of what I do is surrounded. It's about all this high strangeness and crazy weird stuff, as you can see, like all the different things behind me,
Yeah.
but through a biblical lens. So yeah. So it was I mean, if you look at listen to the first episode of this podcast versus today, it's vastly different, and it's only been 2 years. So with that being said, it just really has morphed into how it's definitely my worldview and how I view the world. So,
And for me, that's wonderful because I love it when people take what they have and make it work for them.
yeah,
And if you believe in something, I see absolutely nothing wrong in you trying to find the correlations and how it works, because that's what we got to do when we do believe or have a worldview, right?
yeah,
If we recognize something, we're trying to answer for everything that view it, because it doesn't just do one thing and we say that's what it did. It has to be responsible for all. So I like that. That's kind of where I go when I'm searching. Was there ever an event that changed the direction of your life?
Well, I have had a few events of, I guess you would call, in a high strangeness type of. I had paranormal experience when I was young. That was like the first thing I remember, which was an encounter with some ghosts, I guess you could say.
Okay.
When I was young, my mother and I actually had the experience together, so I knew I wasn't going out of my mind. And then a few years after that, I've had a couple encounters now with what you would call a Bigfoot entity, Sasquatch entity, whatever. And two of them were face to face, what you would consider a Class A sighting, which is where I saw it with my own two eyes and it was physical. And, you know, I'm unabashedly, this is what happened to me, you know, and I don't care what other people have to say about it, because I've been called all the things crazy and all of it. And that's fine. But I always tell people, even my own family, because I still do active Sasquatch research. I still go out in the woods, the deep woods, and, you know, search for experiences and evidence of these entities or creatures or whatever you want to call them, right? And that's the thing, is I'm realizing I don't know what they are. Nobody does, actually. So with that being said, that's what started me down this road, real hardcore. And I always say to people, you don't believe me, just come out with me and you'll probably be a believer by the time you're coming home. So, yeah, it's wild. And it just has changed how I look at the whole world, because it's it comes down to the fact that there's a war, a war that you just don't know that you're in, but it's going on around you.
Yeah.
And that's what all this research is about. It's about, understanding and winning, frankly, the spiritual battle that's going on around us, and you don't even know that you're a part of it. And
okay,
but it
so
does affect you. It does affect you, and whether you like it or not. So
yeah, that's kind of touching on my next question. What made you realize that biblical mysteries were something worth dedicating your time and research to?
well, because I think they're the core of a lot of what they're absolutely the core of a lot of what goes on in our lives and what we see in culture and politics and all these things in life, right? Not just in the United States, but around the world. And, even different states, right? I mean, you have to look at the way that things are, like the way that things are in New York, where I live, right, are a little different than, say, Florida, and the realities and things. And why is it that way, right? And you kind of have to look at the fact that I started taking on what you would call people in this genre, or this, and stuff like what we do. The Deuteronomy 32 worldview is kind of what I call it. And that it directs a lot of how I see the world. So,
Okay.
does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. And tonight's topic that we're talking about today is going to be fallen angels. So for someone who's never heard the phrase before, where would they begin? Where would you begin?
So that's a loaded question. But I think a lot of people think, right, they would say a fallen angel is I guess the best way to kind of head down that way is like, it's a fallen angel is a created spiritual being who rebelled against God, right? And abandoned or corrupted its assigned place and purpose, and placed itself in opposition to God's order. Okay. I think that would be It's a little complex, but that's what we're talking about. The master and the number one example of all of that, right, would be the entity, I guess, that you would call Lucifer, right? Because the phrase fallen angel is useful, but it's largely an umbrella term. And the Bible does not present every rebellious spiritual being as belonging to like one identical class, right? Participating in one rebellion or receiving even the same punishment for that rebelling, right? So also the biblical word translated angel, okay, primarily means messenger. It's not even, it describes a function more than a biological species, right? And that's something I think that needs to be talked about. Is Scripture uses broader categories such as heavenly beings, sons of God, cherubim, rulers, authorities, spirits, powers, and angels, right? Therefore, we say fallen angels, we generally mean a member of the supernatural order who has become rebellious. Which is kind of a complex answer, but I think it's not as clear cut as it should be necessarily, right? Just angel is just a job title. It's not even a name for what we're dealing with. So,
Right. Okay, and I know you'll touch on that a little bit more. Why do you believe that this subject matters today?
because these fallen, what you would call fallen angels, they influence our world and everything in areas. And this is kind of what I was alluding to when I say things are different in New York than they are in, say, Florida. Because I believe that they influence that these beings since Noah's flood, and after the fall of the Tower of Babel, when God divided the nations and then put a son of God or an angel, right, a member of what you would call the divine council over each independent nation has its own, I guess what you would call heavenly administrator, right? But some of those have rebelled. And so you have to kind of go back to Genesis 6, where they talk about, and this is brought up, you had brought up Enoch, and Enoch really spells this out. Genesis 6, you have 200 watchers, but they're heavenly host angels, sons of God, that make a pact to basically give the middle finger to God and do their own thing. And they come down to a mountain called Mount Hermon. They make a pact with each other that says, we will all take the blame for this, and we are going to go mate and take human wives and have children. Those children became what we would call the Nephilim, okay, giants. And yeah, man, I mean, we're starting to go deep, but this was what I call like the first incursion. Okay. Is that these are heavenly beings that essentially fell. It's not, so when we say fallen angel too, we don't necessarily mean cast out, because they were not cast out of heaven. They went down because they were tasked by God to oversee what's going on earth. And they decided to rebel and do what they wanted to do instead.
Gotcha. Is this something that most churches misunderstand? Like,
absolutely, they do not teach it. And even if the pastors believe it, we've had such a long history, especially in Protestant churches, of the this not being a thing. They ignore it and they stay away from it with a 10-foot pole for the most part. There are some churches and some ministers that are more on the deliverance, what you would call like a deliverance ministry, that definitely acknowledge this stuff. But they're more on the outside, right? Because it's not a popular opinion. And a lot of times it's taken as metaphorical. It's not, oh, they're just, they're telling a story. It's not real. This didn't actually happen. What do you mean there's giants, So
Okay.
I do not think that it's taught
Yeah.
in
And
normal circles, for sure.
gotcha. And if somebody only read Genesis, in your opinion, do you think they come to the same conclusions you have?
I'm not sure that they would, just because it depends on the translation you're reading. And there are some things where even if you went, wait, hold up, and you started digging into it on, like, say, Google or whatever, there's other theories, like the Sethite theory, and there's some other theories where they attribute this to other humans instead of actually sons of God, the angels. I think it's pretty apparent that it's sons of God, or Elohim is one of the translations, which essentially is like a little g God, not a big G God. But Elohim is a term that basically talks about heavenly being, right? And that they come down and they mate with women, human women, the sons or daughters of men. So I think there's a good delineation there. Sons of God, daughters of men. I think it's pretty. Now, people will get it conflated too, is that Jesus calls himself this, son of God, but he is, right? So I don't find that to be, that people look into it a little deep, I think. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, when we get back, I'm gonna have a little break for a commercial real quick, because our
Okay.
sponsors got to get theirs. But when
Yes,
we get
sir.
back, we'll talk about Genesis 6, and this is one of our resident authors.
What happens when a Christian preacher's son starts asking questions nobody wants answered? What if faith and science were never supposed to be enemies? This isn't another religious book, and it's not another angry attack on belief. This is a wake-up call. The Agnostic Guide to Faith, Science, and Sanity by A1 Richardson takes you on a mind-bending journey through scripture, psychology, science, energy, cause and effect, vibration, polarity, rhythm, and the universal laws shaping your everyday life. Why do people sabotage themselves and blame God? Why do we ignore patterns then act shocked by consequences? Why are so many trapped doing what we call crazy work? This book challenges everything you thought you knew about spirituality, reality, and yourself. No fake certainty, no church cliches, no blind obedience. Just raw honesty, deep reflection, and practical wisdom for people caught between the pulpit, the laboratory, and real life. Whether you're deconstructing your faith, spiritually curious, tired of shallow answers, or searching for sanity in a chaotic world, this book was written for you. Read it with an open mind, read it with courage, read it before life forces you to learn the hard way. The Agnostic Guide to Faith, Science, and Sanity. Stop doing crazy work and wake up to the patterns shaping your life now.
Yeah, we back. Before we left, I said we'll get into Genesis 6, because Genesis 6 seems like the foundation of your work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically the first fall, which would be the entity that we call Lucifer, right? That is really the crux of all this, right? The adversary, which was a rebellious heavenly being, traditionally read through all, all through the Bible, right? And I think that at the end of the day, he's the head honcho of this whole rebellion, right? So that really is where it all starts. And I think that there's a big disconnect that and we won't go too deep into this, but then we'll just transition into Gen 6. But I think that's something that I've really started digging into deeper, is that I guess what you have to say is that Satan's rebellion appears to concern sovereignty, right? And pride and accusation, and just the blind opposition to God. The difference is, one of the things I want to make clear too is that we have many names for the entity we would call Lucifer, right? Satan. None of them, though, are actually his name. Okay. And that is a big deal, because names have power, right? So that's kind of a nugget that I'll give people in the audience. Start digging into that. That we don't actually know the adversary's name. He's known by a whole bunch of different things. Lucifer. There's just so many different names: the accuser, the adversary, Satan, the devil, the dragon, right? Yeah. But we don't actually know his
name of him.
Yeah. And
that makes sense. A lot of them are titles.
Yeah, right. I mean, Satan is comes straight out of the Bible. That is actually not a perversion, but it's a shortening of what's called the Hasatan, and that is essentially means the accuser. And you kind of have to think of that as a prosecutorial position in heaven within the divine council. And you see this in Deuteronomy, where in the story of Job, where the accuser comes to God and says, or the Satan, the Hasatan, comes to God and says, yeah, Job only, he doesn't have faith, actually. Let's go test him, right? So that's the story of Job. And that's the Hasatan. That actually even is a courtroom. It's basically like a courtroom scene.
Right.
And that happens after the flood, which might come into play later. So saying. So it all starts with, that's the first rebellion, right? And he is still around. That entity still has freedom. He is not chained up anywhere. He is not, Prince of the Air is another name for Lucifer, right? So transitioning from that, though, I think that this entity is a catalyst that's not necessarily talked about in every single one of these rebellions, but I think it's background noise that might be whispering in the ear of these other entities, saying the Watchers, right, associated with Gen 6. And they are a specific group of heavenly beings who crossed the boundary between heaven and human realms, right? Genesis 6 calls them the sons of God, which we've already talked about a little bit, and connects the unions with human women to the appearance of the Nephilim. And Jude and 2 Peter describe sinning angels who abandoned their proper stations and were confined after that, waiting judgment. So the Watchers, after this all went down and God flooded the earth to get rid of the Nephilim and humans that, were not doing the right things.
Right. Okay. And so
he found the Watchers. So
yeah. And we're going to get a little that in just a second, but why is chapter 6 so important to you?
Well, because it flipped everything on its head for me. The first time I was kind of shown this way of thinking about it, because it's only 4 verses. I mean, And let's pull it up exactly. I can't. You think I'd be able to say it verbatim by now, but essentially, Genesis 6 says when human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw the daughters of humans, that they were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not contend with humans forever, so they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old men of renown. And that's where we're at. And that kind of says, I mean, there's still more, but the Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. So we come up to the flood. Now the flood was meant to cleanse the earth of everything. Wicked humans and the Nephilim, the giants. So that's why it's so important, because it kind of sets the stage for everything after it, in my opinion.
Okay.
And it throws a lot of people into because it's not taught this way. And that throws a lot of people off because it's not what they were taught.
Right. Okay. And so when you talk about the sons of God, can you tell us a little bit about who they are? I know you touched on it a little bit, but can you give us a little bit about?
Yeah. So the sons of God are they call themselves, it's a group called the Watchers. And now this comes out of Enoch 1. Now, the book of Enoch is not a canonical text in the Protestant versions of the Bibles, but it is still part of the canon of the Ethiopian Bible. And I think it also, one of the pieces of evidence that gives it credence is that it's actually directly quoted within the Bible by multiple people, including Jesus. So I think the way you have to look at the book of Enoch is not as a extra canonical text and throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? You have to say this was a piece of literature that was written and taken seriously by the people of the time, for sure, and used. Now, so that's where we get this really expanded version of Genesis 6, as it talks about the Watchers coming down to Mount Hermon, and they rebel against God. And we've talked about this ad nauseum. Now we've got with mating with taking wives of human women. Now you've got in Enoch as well, you have the two main characters out of it. Now it does name maybe not all the Watchers, but a heck of a lot of them. There is a list of them, and the leader, his name is Semyaza, and some people may have heard that name. Also, another one of the commanders, I guess is the best way to describe that, is another angel named Azazel, and he comes into play in a lot of other in other biblical books as well, and in Jewish tradition.
Yeah.
But Semyaza and Azazel, they impart now what they do is that as payment for the daughters of men from, say, fathers, right, of these daughters, they impart knowledge on the human race in like metallurgy and cosmetology and cosmology as well, and all this forbidden knowledge that God has not given us. So this is part of that too. It's like putting salt into the wound, is that we're going to rebel and create these abominations, as well as then impart knowledge onto humans for them to do all the things that you don't necessarily want them to do, that they may not be ready, that they may not be ready to be able to handle that knowledge responsibly, right? So that's a big part of it as well.
Okay. Yeah, and you was talking about Samyaza and Azazel, and when you was talking about the name of the adversary, sometimes when I was reading it, doing my research, I was wondering if either one of those, especially Samyaza, was actually the adversary.
And a lot of people do think possibly, but I don't think so, because all those watchers have been imprisoned. All 200 of them, according to the Bible and other text, have been imprisoned and basically essentially chained up in Tartarus, what we would call Tartarus, and to await judgment at the end.
Oh, and Lucifer is free.
Lucifer is free. Okay. He even talks about this now. So the reason we say that he's free for sure, right, is after in this. So everything was wiped out on the earth during the flood. Not just some, not just, maybe one of them slipped through. No, complete judgment. And if you look throughout the Bible and text, when God judges, it's final. It's it. That's it. There's no, something slipped through. Now, I mean, you could say, okay, maybe something did, but that I don't see it that way. I think it was complete judgment, and no Nephilim lived. Now they did, but in a different way, which we'll talk about. No Nephilim actually lived physically, and all of the watchers were imprisoned. Now, yeah, I just don't see God as like half-assing that. Why would he? Right? Nobody survived but the 8 on the ark, right? Noah and his family.
Right.
So that happened, right? And then in Job, you see later this Hasatan figure, the Satan, the accuser. This actually in the chronological timeline happens after the flood. So we know that he's still out. He's not imprisoned. Right. That's my evidence. That's a piece of evidence.
Okay, I got you. That's like I said, that's why when you do research like that, you just think, and then you have to find logical explanations, and that's that ain't one of the reasons that I said that it wasn't. I just and maybe it was. Now that you say it, I just recognized that that couldn't be if he was free or still able to do things amongst the earth and be an agent to it, and then the other ones are said to be locked up. And so, I definitely agree with that. And we were talking about the Nephilim a little bit, and they having questions in there. Can you tell us a little bit more about who they were and what was their influence?
So obviously the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men, and they were essentially giants, and they basically just tore the earth apart. They tore each other apart. They they got to a point after they had eaten all the, human food and stuff that was given to them. People actually worshiped them as well, certain Nephilim. And this can be one of those things as you go back and look at pantheons from other cultures and religions even, right? And you see these men of renown, or you see gods like Kronos or Zeus or Ra, things like that. Some of this can be attributed, in my opinion, to the Nephilim. But at the end of the day, they just got out of hand and caused so much problems. They started eating people. They started eating each other. It's wild. And at the end of the day, God just couldn't take it anymore. It's like enough. And dealt with them. But I mean, you can get kind of deep into the Nephilim with the bloodline stuff, but I think it's all kind of, I do not believe that any Nephilim lived through the flood. So you have Nephilim, and then you have giants before the flood, right? The Nephilim. And then it even says, Moses says, and after the flood as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and this is where we kind of come into another group of fallen angels that happen after the flood. But yeah, we can stop there because you just asked about Nephilim.
Yeah. And why does that passage generate so much disagreement?
Because it's frankly kind of unclear. I mean, right? Yeah, it's like, and so you have to dig to find the explanations, and a lot of that is given through Enoch. There's other books too. There's some in Jasher, the book of Jasher. The problem with Jasher, though, is that it doesn't actually exist in its original form, at least that we know of. It was a book that was lost and then recreated through like Jewish tradition.
Okay.
So the book of Jasher that we have now is like a copy of a copy of a copy, right? There, we can't take it back to like a source that's written in Hebrew or Aramaic. We can't. Like that's why the Dead Sea Scrolls and some of those things are so important, because you can verify that this happened, right? That this was written there. So I think Jasher, the only versions we have are in Greek, which is a little later, right? So we can't say exactly what happened in that because there is no primary source, I guess you could say. But Jasher talks about it as well.
Yeah, it does. I also did some diving in that. I got some questions about the Watchers, but I think I can add them all together. So that way you can just explain it. So I'll state them all, and I know you'll touch on all of them. Explain, could you please give us an explanation kind of the Watchers, who they were, what exactly they did, what exactly did they do, why were they judged, and what role does Mount Hermon play? I know you kind of touched on some of it, but
yeah. Well, Mount Hermon. Okay. Well, so the Watchers. We've already established that they were these 200 entities, right? Heavenly entities, angels, I guess you could say, came down and made a pact. Now, this is one of those things where all 200 of them said, "We know we're about to do some bad things, and we're going to cross a line." But we are going to make a pact and do it together, right? And so all of us are going to be equally at fault for this. It's not going to be like, well, they forced me. No, so they made this pact. And then they went down. Now Mount Hermon, where they came down on, is a real place in Syria. And it's at the northern edge of where Israel, Lebanon, Syria kind of come together. And it's a mountain range, which all kinds of stuff has happened there throughout history. So it does have a very it's a very meaningful high place, right, in the biblical tradition, Christian tradition, but not just Christianity, all sorts of occult practices and pagan religions, all kind of, there's this holiness about Mount Hermon. And I think it's because these things actually happened. And I also think that that's where the transmutation of with Jesus happened as well. It's attributed to other places, but that's a whole nother episode.
I got you.
But then, so Mount Hermon is just kind of the center of this whole thing. And so the Watchers, they basically imparted knowledge to humans in exchange for their daughters, who in turn, they created the Nephilim and had all kinds of, just released havoc on the earth, essentially. And I mean, there's not a ton of detail about that other than like certain, I do want to regress just a touch, though. I forgot Azazel, who is one of the commanders of the Watchers, is also, he is not chained and bound in Tartarus. He is chained and bound in, I guess for the best way to describe it is in the desert. Okay. And that's kind of all you get about that.
I was just about to say, it says actually that, right? He's chained in the desert.
The desert. And so there's stories in like Leviticus and Ezekiel that where you start getting, okay, so we've all heard the term the scapegoat, right? So and so it's kind of funny that that Azazel is kind of the scapegoat to an extent. But either way, what happens is back in ancient Jewish tradition, at Passover, they would have two separate goats. They would have a goat that all the sins of the Israelites, of the Jewish people, would be cast onto this goat by the high priest, and it would be sent out into the desert to Azazel. And it's just kind of a cool story to go down another rabbit hole with.
Yeah, because that's what I haven't. Go ahead, my bad. I'm sorry.
That's just kind of a cool little sidebar story that people can research and go down that road. And then the other goat was sacrificed, and to it's just all these wild stories from the Old Testament that are pretty cool and give certain things framework and
especially reading and rereading the Bible. I love getting to the story of the Watchers. Like after I want to say like the third time, maybe the first part of the first chapters were like, I wanted to hurry and get through them just so I could get to the Watchers. Cause to me, it gets very interesting.
Yeah. Right? Cause you have multiple books within Enoch, and Enoch is, so first Enoch is not really contested. Right. But the other books within it kind of are. There's just some, and that's where I think first Enoch should be in the canon. But it's not. Now it is in some canon, right? Like we said. And I just don't like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And I feel like that's kind of what's happened there. Gotcha. The other book that does preserve traditions that pre-flood Watcher knowledge is also the Book of Jubilees, which is another extra canonical text that's found and copied after the flood. Right. So the point is not that every ancient text is the word, right? But I think you have to take everything in context, right? And sometimes those extra canonicals, they add flavor to what we're researching, right? So,
gotcha. Yeah, and with that being said, we was talking about books outside the Bible. So when we go to this break, we'll come back and we will talk about some of those books outside the Bible. And it's important to a lot of people, and I know it is because just you was just talking about the book of Jasher and the book of Jubilees. I love Jasher. Jasher, I believe that's the one that has the story of this old man coming to a village and having to do something um, that the people didn't like, but in the end, he ended up telling why he had to do that service. I can't exactly tell the
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
I got it on my mind, but I believe that was in Jasher. And I read Jasher and Jubilees at the same time. And so when we get back, especially Enoch, you was talking about the books of Enoch. I think I've read 1, 2, and 3. I don't know if there's
Yep.
more than that, but I know I've delved into books 1, 2, and 3. And so when we get back, we're going to talk more about that after a message from our sponsors.
Amazing news! At Titans Debate League is now looking for interns. We are expanding our team and seeking driven individuals who are ready to make an impact. We're on the hunt for talented people to join our marketing team, and charismatic new hosts, and creative minds who can produce amazing content. If you have a positive attitude and are used to winning, because that's what we do here, then we want to hear from you. Join us and contribute to a culture of excellence and success here at Titans Debate League. Email us today, titansdebateleague@gmail.com. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Where Infinity Gauntlet is a mere toy compared to the intellectual prowess build and destroy the cipher, intellectual sword, a slicer, or whatever.
Yeah, we can end that kind of quick. I want to get back to it. We was talking about books outside the Bible before we left. I believe some of your research includes books like Enoch, first book of Enoch and the Book of Giants.
Yeah. So let me pull something up real quick so I don't get it wrong.
Okay. And while you do, could you tell us what value you do believe those books provide after you speak on them a little bit?
I think they just give you context, right? It's almost like it's like you would have a history book written by an outside source, right? I kind of look at Enoch as that. At least it makes you think. But I feel like, and this is one of the big things that we know happens, is that Enoch gives us the whole. First Enoch gives us a whole piece that we don't understand about what you would call demons, right? It explains that, and I had alluded to this earlier, is that what demons are is the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. Okay, so they are cursed. They were cursed by God to always roam earth, even after death. And Enoch talks about all that and gives you the story behind all that stuff, where it's not really in the Bible. So it gives you so much context, right? I'm trying to pull this up and my computer is not. It is not.
Excuse me. If you have something you'd like to pull up, you can tell me. I'll see if I can pull it up for you if your computer.
No, I got it. It's good.
Okay.
So, right. So you've got First Enoch, right, which is technically what they would call the Book of the Watchers, right?
Okay.
And that obviously details rogue angels, right? We've talked about that. You have then what's called the Book of Parables as well, because I think calling it first, second, third Enoch doesn't give it quite justice in exactly what is in here, right? So you've got the Book of Parables, which contains visions of the final judgment and coming of a divine Messiah figure known as the Son of Man, right? That would be Jesus. Heavily influencing, all of our theology. Then you have the Book of Heavenly Luminaries, which is part of Book of Enoch. And it details the movements of the sun, the moon, the stars under a divine order, right? Establishing a specific 364-day solar calendar, so on and so on. Okay. You have the Book of Dream Visions, which it uses allegories such as sheep representing Israel and wild animals representing like the surrounding empires, right? To outline world history from creation to the Messianic kingdom. And then you've got the Epistle of Enoch, serves as a final sermon that urges later generations to live, I guess live righteously while warning sinners of the ultimate resurrection and final judgment. Yeah. The Book of Giants, though, you just brought that up, right? Let me pull.
Yeah, because those are some interesting books. Like I said, I've read Enoch 1, 2, and 3. And
so really with the Book of Giants, this is one of those ones that's kind of cool because you've got the thing is, though, it's an antediluvian, it's the pre-flood narrative, right? And it talks about, so it gives some giants names, right? And they go and talk to Enoch about like they're having dreams. It's such a wild book, but it's, again, it gives you context, right? But there's a very contested book. But I think it gives you some context behind the pre-flood world and even the Nephilim's interaction with other humans and whatnot. It's really something that I think people should read it.
yeah,
If you read if you read the Bible, I think you should also read the Book of Enoch. And you can buy it so it's all together.
I got you. That was my next question. Should Christians read it? You kind of answered that.
I think they should. That's my opinion, though. And a lot of people would say, no, don't do it. But again, this is where you need to build those discernment muscles, right? Where you need to build, and then form your own opinions about it. Do you think this has weight to add to your way of thinking, or do you just not, you want to discard it completely? And nor I nor you can tell anyone that that's what they should or shouldn't believe, right? I mean, we can, but it doesn't make it right.
Right. That is definitely.
Yeah.
With that, like you just said, discernment. I mean, when you taking those type of things, I don't think I was. Let me see if I remember correctly. When the Nephilim talked to Enoch, wasn't they trying to get him to talk to God on their behalf?
Yeah, they wanted to talk They wanted him to talk to God on their behalf to like kind of plead their case, what's going to happen, And God basically is like, nah, you guys are done. You guys have messed up, and you're all going to pay for it.
Okay. That's right. And with the books out there that's not canonical, but as we know, have information that might just be displaced for various reasons, because that's what I believe we see within history once you start seeing councils and to put a certain doctrine into effect.
Yeah, like Nicaea and things like that, right? Yeah.
Right. And Richard Bancroft and all of those people just doing their touch-ups
yes.
of the Bible. You know what I'm saying? We get some of those lost. So it's like, for me, coming up Christian, and finding out about the books and not seeing them there, and then talking to like preachers of that time and stuff, and they just say like, yeah, those books aren't real, or you shouldn't think about them. And for me as a child, when you hear that, you think like, oh well, that was like the boogeyman. That's something that somebody made. But then the older you get, you start understanding like, oh no, they're the same things. These people actually move those. And so how do you, in your opinion, and how should people distinguish between scripture and historical literature?
So I think you've got to put things in an order, right? Like you've got these different tiers, I guess, of how you need to put. What's funny is I actually have something that kind of answers this. But you have to use your own discernment. So obviously things that are considered biblical, you kind of have to go down a hierarchy, right? Of just like we would in any research.
Right.
And so, but there are some very good people, like Josephus, right? Was a scholar, not necessarily biblical. He was back then in the Roman times, and he even talks about the crucifixion. There's things that he reports that is from a historical standpoint, not a biblical standpoint or a theological standpoint. So we know like Jesus was crucified on a cross because without a doubt, not just because of the Bible, but because Josephus plus multitude of other historical writers also wrote about it and were witness to it, or like had firsthand testimony from people. It would be no different than, you're the witness of a crime. What did you see? Right.
Yeah.
So of course you have to dig into those, so that you have to give those weight. But again, it is a process, and I think you have different tiers of, you've got, Bible, you've got historical things like that are in a top tier area. And then you have another tier where you've got maybe extra canonical things where they can't quite figure out who authored things, or just because it was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, rolled in a spot, doesn't mean that it's completely accurate. It could have been somebody's, but it takes a lot of discernment. And sometimes, frankly, yes, opinions. And I'm going to say it. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, right?
That's what they say.
And they all kind of stink, probably, So at the end of the day, you just have to use all these threads of, I always use the word discernment. And frankly, I pray on a lot of it. And I don't just accept it without there being some spirit testing, or just some sort of testing, right?
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. I can feel you on that, because when you do find a path that works for you, it doesn't matter now about what anybody else think.
Yeah.
On the real, like you said, I can give somebody else my opinion, but for me, this isn't my opinion. This is an objective reality for me. And so I must make it work for me.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you definitely on that.
And everybody comes differently too, right? So just because somebody tells you to read this book, you can read it, but you have to work through it the way that you work through it, right? So I really urge people to do that, and to not just blindly follow what people parrot. Because what I say I just hope to plant seeds, hence the name of my podcast, Broadcasting Seeds. I just want to plant seeds of critical thinking everywhere that I go. and make people think, and then they can come up with their own opinion and do their own research, because that's the only way they're really going to believe something in their heart, is if they do the work. I mean, that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
People that just do parrot, but they don't have conviction, not real conviction behind what they're talking about. So at least that's my belief. So
Gotcha. Okay. And I had somebody in the chat. I didn't say anything about that, but he was talking about the Nag Hammadi library, and that's kind of the text. Melchizedek, because I forgot I did read the book of Melchizedek, which is a great one, especially about the lamb. And the lamb in that story is very big to me. And like you were talking about discernment real quick, I just want to say that's what I don't understand about a lot of people and why they can't read something. And even if you don't believe it, is there a lesson in there? Because there's lessons in all of it, whether you believe the events that happened or anything, they lead to something. I always go back to the boy who cried wolf. I don't too much care if that boy had on a blue shirt, if the boy was real or not, because I know that story is about not lying and saying stuff jokingly.
Right.
Because when something serious happens, and matter of fact, I think that's kind of what happened in that story I was talking about in the book of Jasher. I got to reread that now that I think about it. It's about crying wolf. So what lesson do I get from that story? Not to be going out and just jokingly getting on people's nerves, making them think that something is happening when it's not. I don't need that boy to be real to see the lesson for that. And so I don't like you said, I don't push it because everybody have their own way. It's just that there's so many lessons that I get. And so and that's why I took the philosophical road, because I decided not to bother myself with, was this person actually real? Was it, I know the actual meaning of what that person was doing in my eyes. And like I said, and Roy just asked me, he said I might be getting objective and subjective. I'm not. I think everybody's reality to themselves is objective. That's the one objective thing we have, is our individuality.
Yeah.
But I ain't getting on that. Roy Chess, y'all in the chat.
And the Nag Hammadi, that is some cool stuff. I mean, literally, like it was found in the desert in Egypt, right? And it is different than the Dead Sea Scrolls. So, but there is a lot of overlap. So again, folks, look down the read into the Nag Hammadi scrolls. It's wild, some of the stuff that we found. I do remember what I was going to say about Jasher. I got too much in my brain, man. And
I know the feeling.
But so as it pertains with Jasher to the Watchers, right? Because I had brought up that I mean, the book of Jasher, again, it's another book like Enoch that's brought up in the Bible by Joshua and in 2 Samuel. But it refers to that ancient book of Jasher, or what they would call the upright, right? But that identifiable ancient work, they can't find it, right? So what is circulated is it's a later Jewish narrative, right? But with that being said, use it as a supplementary tradition, not as equal to Genesis or Enoch or even Jubilees, but for the Watcher case specifically, I find that Jasher is less direct and less useful than Enoch, but I also use that Jasher cautiously because the Bible names an ancient book, right? And we cannot simply assume that the medieval text circulating now under that title is the same document. So Jasher can preserve interesting, Jewish retellings, but it is not, it should not carry the argument, right? I think it's one of those things that it should enhance it, right? You look kind of like what you were just saying.
Got you. Okay, and so then now let's get into a little bit of spiritual warfare. One phrase people often hear is spiritual warfare when we're talking about these things, and when, like you say, you're going down them rabbit holes. Some of the times you're going down that rabbit hole to fight the spiritual warfare that's going on within your life. What does that actually mean, though, for you, spiritual warfare?
So for me, I feel like there's been many, especially after I started doing this podcast. I feel like there is, I mean, we all kind of have this feeling that maybe not all people, but some of us have that. You get that vision of the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other, right? And sometimes you don't understand why you do certain things, right? And maybe you hear a voice inside your head that does not align with who you are, right? And kind of tells you to do things, or tells you, hey, maybe, just this one time it's fine to do this. I see that, frankly, to me, I see that as spiritual warfare. Just to get down to the bare bones side of this, is that we are surrounded by a world that we just can't see, right? And beyond the veil, the spirit world, whatever you want to call it, I think it's a real thing. I think that we are influenced by principalities and powers. Paul talks about this. There's talked about this in many places, that this is after the flood stuff that we were talking about, those territorial spirits, those territorial powers, right? I mean, there's many stories, and I think this is what I would consider the third rebellion, that these are those divine council members rebelled again, just in a very tactical, nuanced area. Like, they were given a certain territory, right? Like the Prince of Persia, people have heard of this, the Prince of Greece. These are both talked about in the Bible. And the Prince of Persia actually held up the angel Gabriel, or the archangel Gabriel, from going to help Daniel, right? And Michael, the archangel, had to intercede. Now, that's a pretty powerful entity, right? If it's going to stop an archangel from coming to help somebody, right? And I think that is happening even now. I can't tell you specifics. I can't tell you whatever, because I don't know, but I think those influences, and that's what I'm talking about when I say there's different things, that when you get into different areas, when you get into different regions of the world, not just our country, but the world, you get this, in the military, I traveled all over the world, and there's just there's literally a different air, right? But there's a feeling that you get, like there's influence on you from doing certain things. I mean, take Vegas, for example. Why do people lose their minds in Vegas? I think it's more than just, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I think there's a spiritual influence there. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about spiritual warfare.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's kind of just a big, long overview, but, agree with me or not.
Yeah, that's what works for you. Like I said, for me, when I see spiritual warfare, I think my spirit is fighting my flesh. I try not to. But
that's part of it too. I absolutely agree with that. I do.
I don't too much try to give what I call accountability to anything but me. So I know that temptation isn't like the devil put that temptation there. Like, it's there. That spirit that is me, if that, what I'm saying, that thing that's me is the one that is dealing with that. And it's not put there intentionally by somebody to do anything. And so I try to take accountability. So the spiritual warfare for me is basically the same thing. It's just I fight it within myself. I try not to give anything else agency or accountability in my choices.
Yeah, no, and I absolutely agree with that. I just think that there's certain influence that whether you like it or not is doing it. It's put in front of you, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
And then you have to fight through that. You have to actually take accountability for your actions. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying too. Somebody could purposely put that movie on the internet for me to purposely have a mind like that. And so, and like you said, though, it still comes down to me. But I agree with you, though. Sometimes,
no, at the very end and the base of all of this, it's you,
right?
And you choose how you react to things.
Definitely.
Period. So part of the thing that I have happen a lot to me, and one of the things is, I guarantee you, because I've had it happen dozens of times, I say a pretty lengthy prayer before I do podcasts like this, when I talk about this subject, because inevitably, if I do not, we get all kinds of technical difficulties. It will either, things will go out, things will, get dropped. The internet will be glitchy. Things will just, wild things start happening. Like we might not even be able to connect, right? And it's not every time, but it's enough for it to be notable, right? That certain things and certain entities do not want this stuff talked about. So,
gotcha.
So yeah, and you know what? That's fine. You know, people can agree with me, they can disagree with me, and this is just great. I love having the because if you live in a silo, where everybody talks the same, what are you learning? You're not going to learn anything. I really, the biggest reason that I even said yes to some of this is I straight up, when, is it Steven? That's his name, right? Or A1. He reached out to me and I prayed on it. And, he was like, yeah, let's do this, because I could feel, even if we're not like-minded, even you and I, even if we're not like-minded, I think we're like-hearted.
And that's what it is.
And if you have that, what else is there? The rest of it's just good debate.
Right.
Titans Debate League, right?
Right. But we like to get that information, and that's why we got the different views, and like love different people like you with those views, because just like we just said, we was talking and you was talking about the spiritual warfare, and then I gave my rendition of it. We came to the same conclusion. About one aspect, you know what I'm saying? And that's what we like about it, because there are some people out there who might still be fighting. A lot of people don't even know that they have the right to have their own opinion about things. You know what I'm saying? And so Titans Debate League, it was nice for me when I first came, because I'm rather new here too. I'm just me and, like you say, like-hearted, like-minded, the people who's been running it. And so I liked what was going on. And this is one of the things that I liked about it. People get up here. The way that we do it on the debate channel is a little different, though. This is our sister channel. We run it, but our sister channel is strictly for people to get their opinions and ideas out without argument or somebody coming up. And because, like you said, we know it's always going to be somebody able to come up and say something, but we don't want that right now. We'll have different shows for that. Anything. We hope that you become a regular in return, because we know you have your views, and just visit, because it's a lot of.
Yeah. And like I've said, though, I'm open to all of it. I feel like as soon as you lock down your own opinion and you don't want to hear other people, it's like, that old adage, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong damn room.
Right.
And I fully believe that I am a student before I am anything else. And I'll never claim to know it all, because you know what? You might hear me in a year and my opinion has changed. I mean, I'm writing books on this stuff, right? I've got a book coming out on Monday, The Second Incursion, it's called, which is about a lot of this. But it also then gets wild, and it starts tying in the what you would call, I guess, a good way to put it is the Nephilim after the flood, right? Because they happened before and after. Giants happened before and after, and where did that come from? And I kind of explained that with the territorial entities have ceded their territories with more giants. You find this in the Bible in Canaan, and this is the whole premise of David. All the war that's declared by God on these other tribes, like you shall go forth and kill all these other tribes that people point to as genocide. That's actually not genocide. That's an incursion upon God, because God took Israel, right? I mean, he kept Israel for himself, gave the 70 other nations to those entities, right? He put them over those nations. He didn't want them to rebel, but they did. But he kept Israel for himself. So if you look through those wars, right? And the Anakim, the Zazumim, all those tribes, those are giant tribes. And they're encroaching on Canaan, which is Israel. So they not only did the second incursion create abominations again, it also invaded Israel with them. So that gets deep. I'm just saying.
See, that's a wonderful take on it. And that's what we need. Like, when I heard about the Nephilim of after the giants after the flood, I just always thought that like maybe some of them survived and they thought they didn't, and that's where it was. But today you give me a new way to look at it, because I haven't ever taken my time to try to answer it, and so that's why.
And the reason that they were so, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. I apologize.
Yeah, because you got a book, and I don't want you to give your book up like that.
No, but there's a but. But the but part of this is that you talk about, you have giants that they like. Og of Bashan is in the Bible. It's the most talked about giant in the Bible. Goliath and his brothers. Those are post-flood giants. You have all these stories about post-flood giants, and where was I going with that? You've got. Say that again. I'm sorry.
Why they were there? You were telling us like why.
Oh yeah, and it was just so. But why they were also defeatable, right? Because they're less powerful than they were pre-flood. Giants are. You have to also look at what happened after the flood. Our longevity as humans was limited. You went from 900-year lifespans down to 120-year lifespans, right? What caused that? These are things that people don't necessarily talk about, right? But you have this halving, and it's all listed in the Bible of, nope, this generation only lived 400 years. This generation lived 200. Now, at the very most, somebody's living 120 years, right? Then you also have that where you have these, the earth in general changed after the flood. There was a difference in atmosphere. There's a difference in all the ways that things work. Yeah. And now you have the same sons of God mating with the daughters of men, right? But something happened to us that made us lesser. Does that make sense? So now you have these giants, but they're not as powerful. You have all these other entities. This isn't even getting into the whole part about the corruption, which is also talked about in the Bible, the corruption of beasts, the corruption of, and why do we have Sasquatch? Why do we have dogmen? Why do you have all the stories from mythology of all these wild animals, lion men, goat men, dog men, all of them in the Bible? It's a rabbit hole so deep that you just, you can talk about this for hours and hours and hours, right? So that's why I wrote the book, because I can give you 4 chapters right here, but this book goes 12 chapters deeper. So this is why I urge people also to read things, because there's only so much we can talk about, but you need to read these things. Go to things like Gary Wayne's books and go to the different apocryphal texts and read Josephus and the legends of the Jews and all kinds of all this stuff. And you start putting these pieces together and you're like, oh my gosh, and your mind starts to change. So sorry. I get on a tangent.
That's good. No, you're good, because we was just about to get into the modern connections without sounding sensational. Because you've always discussed UFOs and cryptids and other unexplained phenomena.
Yes.
How do those subjects intersect with your biblical research?
I mean, so some of them can be attributed, frankly, to biblical stuff. Like one of the things that you can do, and this is, I don't, let's see, how can I piece this together? So you have these elements that have, again, this is pattern recognition, that have gone on since the beginning of time, right? These stories, these folklore, this mythology, all these things that just keep happening, that are very similar across the ages, and not only across time, but across geography. So you have the same gods and pantheons across the world, right? But this is all stories. But you have these things and they continuously update every few generations. I think personally, a lot of this stuff now that's going on with UFOs, and I mean, you have plenty of UFO type stuff happen in the Bible. Like how do you explain wheels within wheels with eyes and fire, chariots in the sky, all these things that could be UFOs, right? So you kind of get this ancient aliens hybrid thought going on. But I'm not saying that I know. I'm not somebody that's like, oh no, there is no outer space. Right? Or you get into the people that believe in the flat earth and all this stuff, which is fine. But I'm not saying that there aren't entities that come from outside of Earth, but I think a lot of this, I'm also not saying angels or demons, right? But I do believe that there's some cross-pollination between some of these entities and whether it's fallen entities, angels, right? And or demons in cahoots. I mean, there's some theories out there that are wild, but they kind of make sense. I just kind of take it all in. Like guys like L.A. Marzulli, and his theories on, it's all one giant part of this whole battle that we're in and moving towards revelation, right? And that they're trying to create this counterfeit kind of like fake alien invasion to bring us all together, and then it gets really deep.
Well,
it gets so deep
because, like I said, I don't
without getting sensational, right?
Philosophy, and I have a possible world book because I've talked to different people, and some of the things like you saying, like when you mentioned the UFOs or the angels and the beings and the things that we've heard, and how do you correlate them? A lot of people would say that it's pseudo because you're trying to answer for it. I don't think so, because I can imagine what one of the seraphim, or no, what's the one with all the eyes? Is that the seraphim?
That's the Ophanium.
Okay. I could picture that if a dude was talking to me one day and he was talking about a drone with cameras and lights and cameras on every side. If it's a drone that's doing recognizance
Reconnaissance,
for,
yeah.
and if this drone is doing recognizance for an entity,
Yeah.
and this entity, you know what I'm saying? And it kind of just like you say, once you start talking about it
Yeah.
and trying to put it in viable form, it becomes for me a possible world. Is it possible that this, because I'm a philosopher, I look at things as a philosopher. So it's just like, is it possible that the things that we read in the Bible could have actually been happening, like real, and like some of the things we don't, just like, I take this was one that me and this guy, he calls himself L. Ron Thugger. He said, imagine if the Immaculate Conception was actually the first artificial insemination of a biologically enhanced spermia,
Oh yeah.
and not one. And I said, when you read the Bible and you say, do miracles happen, or do things happen and people just don't understand them? And I could see that being, and that's why it was an angel. And that's what these angels, if they came from another place and then they saw that they could mate, maybe the watchers started mating before they were supposed to, before they finished the experiment in Eden. And that's what made it. It ain't that they wasn't going to get to, it's just that these ones did it before they were, because they were running the experiment in Eden. And then it gets all the way down to these things being told to us through an eye that didn't have
Yep.
the technology or
They
the
just
knowledge
saw
of
it
things that we know.
differently, right?
Yeah. And so they explaining these things. Yeah, the guy walked up and touched her belly. But no, he actually came and he artificially inseminated her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It,
I do. And I look at that as like the birth of all these different, think of CRISPR technology now.
yes, I got stock in CRISPR, and CRISPR
Yeah,
technology.
but you know what I'm saying? That is biological manipulation. And that is what we're talking about with the knowledge of the watchers. Part of that was biological manipulation, period. It's there. It's in the text.
Yeah.
And so what you're talking about is absolutely, I think that what happens is then what I'm getting at is that every few generations, the boogeyman or the what we're seeing changes because our perception changes, right? So if you're an an entity that wants to manipulate but stay, I mean, that's the devil's job, right? Is to deceive. So if he's orchestrating a lot of this stuff to happen, that's the biggest trick that he's ever pulled, is to convince people that he doesn't exist, right?
Right.
So if you're going to try and hide in plain sight, how would you do that? You would use the technology available to you to change the perception, to change the way you're viewed. And if you're these, beings that have all kinds of power and or the ability to shapeshift and do all kinds of stuff, I mean, we don't even know. We have no clue. All we can do is extrapolate and fantasize about it, frankly, and then try to get as much stuff that makes sense, right? So what you're talking about there, though, is absolutely happening in today's world with DNA manipulation and CRISPR technology, among other things. There's way more stuff. Yeah, I mean, I look at people when they talk about hybrid beings, and I go, do you not understand that there are cloning things happening right now that we just don't even know about? Because people go to jail for it. Like people trying to mix DNA, right? They've done it. It's not even like a theory. No, it's happened. It's been done. And people have actually, so.
Yeah. No, I get you. I mean, think of this. If like you say, if it's like we hear the stories and then you hear about wars in heaven, there had to be two different factions. Maybe there was a society. Maybe they were biologically enhancing themselves at that time, and that's why we have stories of reptilians, serpent beings, and things. Maybe they had to come here because they messed up their planet. We'd have to reconstruct. I think what would give us a whole lot is if we really start trying to reconstruct what would have happened in a war of such caliber. Then we'd have to start putting faces on what God would really be if there's a thing. Was it created to help said beings? Did it give commands to artificially enhance themselves to become a different species like the angels? Now the angels running things. Now they got to take care of this. Did they have wars with this entity where they understood that they were actually demons, just artificially enhanced, and so they didn't want to take out the total demon race, so they relocated to Earth in different times and stuff. We get stories of Hermes and mountains over there in the Hindu religions, was these different relocation times. That's why the Hindu gods appeared first, but they're all the same beings, and they're not actually beings like that. They're beings like us who, because they were here earlier in time of Earth, they got all the way to the place we are now with CRISPR technology. Maybe the technology that we have is actually recreation, because if they came, they brought technology with them. It ain't like they could bring everything from heaven, but they would bring the things, and they would bring the tools to know how to recreate. And that's, to me, if we're talking about a possible world, this isn't, but remember, guys, in the chat and people that's listening, I'm a philosopher. So this is this possible? Not that I believe any of this. If we're talking about making things happen, then we have to critically think about how they could have actually happened in the real sense. And so that only calls for, like I say, critical thinking in a way that's unbeknownst. And I know I might not be right. I know there's a possibility that I'm wrong, but that's why it's just a possible world.
Yep.
And so that's my opinion. My bad. I done got off. We was talking about modern connections.
I love it. That's exactly. But I'm right there with you. I totally. You have to be open to all this stuff, because we don't know. I mean, part of my motto with all this stuff is like, we can come up with all these theories, but we don't know shit. We don't.
Right, man. All we can do is make great assumptions and try to logically deduct or do scientific research to see if it adds up to. And then even when it adds up to what we think it is, it still might be wrong.
Yep.
Shout out Roy Chesson. If Odie is a philosopher, I'm saying, all right, Santa, I'm going to stop calling you Roy Chesson. We can get into we just talked about my next questions. I really don't. How do these subjects intersect with your biblical research, though? How do these modern subjects that we're talking about, CRISPR, I know you kind of touched on it. I'll be talking about the Minotaur and all of that. If these beings really were, maybe it was gene editing, not manipulation, not no crossbreeding a man with an animal. No. This had to be gene experimentation and manipulation. But how did that kind of tie in with your research when you talk about
I absolutely agree. I think that is a absolute possibility and likely what happened. And I see this too, is you brought up a types of different types of entities, right? So you brought up the Ophanium, but you have the Seraphim, which are considered as seraphim are fiery serpents, right? Or reptilian in nature. You have cherubim, which are not at least described. They're not the little fat babies with arrows, right? That's not a cherubim. No. And actually Lucifer was what you would call a guardian cherubim, a throne cherubim. His entire job was to stand at the right hand of God as kind of like a bodyguard, right?
Right.
And so, but a cherubim, if you look at that and how they are described, they are terrifying beings, right? And have different faces, have different, and what does that mean exactly? I don't know, but they talk about a face of an ox, a face of an eagle, the face of a lion, the face of a human, 6 different wings and all this other stuff, right? And what does that mean exactly? I don't know, but at the end of the day, when you start putting animal liking her to these entities, and they start mating or doing, taking their genetic material and putting it with other genetic material, who knows what you get,
Who
right?
knows?
So you take a cherubim as one of their faces as an ox. That's kind of what a minotaur is, right?
Mhm.
Lion men. I mean, you have the lion men of Moab. You have that. You have dog men in the Bible too. I mean, the entire I can never say the word, like Ceta Celium, or there's a whole race of something like that. But there's a city, and it's Dog City essentially. But these are all these genetic manipulations. You talked about other religions as well. You get into Hindus, they got elephants and monkeys and
Mhm.
all kinds of other things. So when you think about that, then you have
Blue skin entities.
you have monkeys not only there, but you have them in Asia, monkey gods, right?
Mhm.
And then you have Sasquatch or something along those lines, right?
And then in Egypt, we have the gods with the animal heads.
Yeah,
These
right.
could
So
have
you
been
have, jackals, you've got eagles, you've got hawks, you've
vultures
got
and
all these things.
pelican.
And then even in Native American traditions, think about all the different things there. South America, and even down into African cultures. It's the same. It
It's
just
all,
rhymes. It all rhymes, right?
yeah.
There's a pattern. And so I feel like that is genetic experimentation, and or just let's do it because we're going to corrupt God's land. Let's do this as an FU to God.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, because in the end, in the Bible, that's what it's when you get down to the human function of it, it's about the blood of Israel, right? And the
right.
bloodlines in Israel. And
Yes.
um,
And any way that they can corrupt humankind, I think they're going to do, because his job now, and I'll use the adversary, the enemy, Satan, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him, he knows he's going to lose. At the end of the day, they know they're going to lose. But what's their job now is to take as many of us with them as they can.
mm,
And if you look at the worldview like that, and this kind of harkens back to spiritual warfare, is that any way that they can, they're going to take us with them to the pit or to the lake of fire, right? So any way that they can corrupt us and make us sinners, they're going to do so. And there are things, and the biggest sin is to not believe, right?
mm.
And if you follow Jesus, then you'll end up. But if they take that away from you, personal responsibility, back to that again. That's up to you.
Right.
And you don't have to believe this, but I feel like it's at your own detriment.
I got
But I keep getting brought back to that. And I don't know why that is, but the way that I look at it is that if I keep getting brought back to there, that's the path I should be on. So
I feel you. I feel you. Now
yeah.
we're gonna jump into a little bit of exploration for myself. I always have my own things I want to know because I have my own way of thinking, and I'm so interested and I get so overjoyed when other people have a way of critical thinking like me. Not saying that they believe their findings, that their conclusions are true. This is just what I've come to. And when you do investigate a claim, do you have a process that you go through?
I can tell you that. Now, what do you mean, like a claim? Like
Like
where
a
I
claim that
find
you're trying to
something
find, something that
yeah.
you're trying to tie in or figure out.
Yeah. So I definitely, first off, I kind of like try and form a thesis, right? So if you guys look, and I'm trying to think if there's a public place where I do this. At the end of a lot of my more in-depth episodes, I will put, and I think I only do this behind the paywall. I put my whole research. So from the thesis statement to the scriptures, right? That where I tie things in. So I definitely come up with a thesis statement and then I pray on it. But then I take it and I will run it through. I'm not one that's afraid to use AI. Okay. A lot of people are like, oh, it's, whatever. But I run it through, I'll run it through Claude. I'll run it through Gemini. I'll run it through Chat GPT and Grok. I run it through all 4 of those and see what it spits back out at me. Right. And sometimes what happens is then I get more things to go down that rabbit hole farther, things to read, things to research. And then I take all those pieces, put it all together and read through it. And then usually what I'll do, because this is the way my brain works, is I write about it. And one of my things is I write 10 pages a day on different topics. This is how I'm able to pop books out the way that I do, because to me, it's therapeutic. I learned a long time ago that writing for me, well, I wanted to be a better writer because I was always told that as a kid, I was stupid or whatever. You can't write, you can't do whatever. And I said, bullshit, I'm going to do it. And so I read Stephen King because he's one of the most prolific, whether you like him or not, he's one of the most prolific writers of our age. And he spits out books like crazy, right? Well, one of the ways that he does this, I read his book called On Writing. And one of the ways that he does this is he writes 10 pages a day minimum. It could be about complete nonsense. Yeah. And then I keep them. I can't show you, but I literally have a bookcase full of notebooks. Gotcha. That I've written in. What happens is I'll correlate things together and put them together in coherent thoughts. And sometimes it's I'll grab a piece of paper and just be done because it's trash, right? Yeah. I'm like, whatever. Or I literally have, and you can hear them, I have just notes everywhere on stuff. It's my chaos that goes on in my brain. But that's literally, then I boil it all down into what I'm actually trying to say. I write it all down coherently and I put it away somewhere. And a lot of times I'll come back to it, use it in a book, use it in a podcast or whatever. I just, that's my process.
Okay. That's kind of the same process I go through. My notebooks are digital notebooks. No, I use notes.
Yeah, I have that too, but
yeah, there's nothing like I feel like there's nothing like writing it in your own handwriting and looking at it again, because I always think about if systems fail or something, exactly. But I still have my material.
You do.
What kind of sources do you trust the most?
That's a great question. I think it goes through where when I go through my process, I can't necessarily put a finger on everything, but I feel like I'm led to some of these things. Maybe that's supernatural experience or, me being told, hey, this has got worth to it. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, because it does quite a bit, actually. But also sometimes it clicks, right? It makes sense when you read it. So I definitely think for me, I look at a lot of original translations or there's times I have different versions of the Bible side by side. I give the Bible quite a bit of credence, obviously. Some of the Apocrypha, lots of history books here and there, all the way back into as early as I can find them. One of the things like Project Gutenberg is a great piece of, is a great online tool that you can use, because it's got literally thousands and thousands of public like books that are out of copyright, and they're
Okay.
all and you can pull them up. It's fantastic.
Project Gutenberg.
Project Gutenberg, and it's just
Excuse me.
open source books, right? There's all just so many different. Bible Gateway is a huge tool. So I give, I use discernment,
Okay.
and
Listen,
and I try to, again, what I do though is some of the stuff is wild and some people sound crazy, but I'm not saying I give everything they say credence, but I bring it in. I allow it in to say, hey, how does this stack up against what I do know, what I can prove and what I can't, right?
right.
Or does this have a place to go down the rabbit hole? So
I got you. You sound like my man GD and Capone when you said you have everything pulled up, because I know he always have sources. I'm talking about when we have in here, we having conversations. He in the chat right now. Shout out GD and Capone. Shout out everybody in the chat, by the way. But he can, when he talking about it, he has the Hebrew pulled up if you need it. Mike can even tell you from his mind. He got the King James. He got the NIV. You know what I'm saying? So
yep.
I know how that can go when you doing that dictionary. Roy Chess has problem with dictionary sources, but I think a lot of people understand that a dictionary just gives you a definition of what something is.
Yeah. I mean, I think people need to also understand that we're all human, right?
Yeah.
And all this stuff is written or translated by a human.
Right.
So, it makes you also want to throw the towel in and be like, man, I don't want to, my life would be so much easier if I didn't do any of this. But
yeah, for real. Have you ever had to abandon any of your ideas because of evidence that didn't support it?
I wouldn't say no, not really. But what I have done on multiple occasions is thrown in the towel and just been like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Part of the reason, like, I stopped podcasting for a little while. It's just like, man, this is hurting my brain. Can I just retire all, but something won't let me do it. I just keep coming back to it. So I guess what it is I can't stop reading and I can't stop absorbing knowledge. So why I stopped fighting it. And now I find it's easier on the other side. I mean, it's not easy, but it's, but I haven't really had to like abandon. You know why? Because I'm not dogmatic about any of this.
Right.
If you show me, right, some compelling evidence on something that like show me that Jesus didn't exist, right? If you can show me that, okay, then right. But I mean, he's the most documented person ever to walk the face of the earth. More original source material than Genghis Khan, than Alexander the Great. Pick a historical figure, and there's more written about Jesus than any other person on the face of this planet ever. So I'm just saying, it's just an example.
And that's like you say, like I say all the time, for that person to have faith and walk in the way that he walked, I have no quarrels, especially if it's making you do, and like I say, the lesson that I feel that was being taught, and that's basically try to walk your life as good as you can without impeding on the comfortability of anybody else, knowingly and purposefully.
See, that's another red flag for me too, just to bring that up. That's a good point. If you have to push your stuff with force on people, I'm not going to listen to you. It makes me squirm a little bit. If you have to forcefully put it on people and force them to believe in what you're saying, it's not right. It's not right.
Gotcha.
I think you need to check yourself. I think you need to look in the mirror and understand, where is this actually coming from? Because it should be coming from here, not from here. Right. And
that pushes some people away when you do that. You can have somebody that come actually asking you genuine questions about it, just to, and then once you start pushing it, the idea after you answer the question, or you don't believe in God, well, you're gonna end up, and you know what I'm saying. You
Yeah,
start pushing it
I'm
and
out.
stuff
I'm
like
out.
that person then like, I don't even want
Yeah.
to be like
Yeah,
that.
and everyone's got a religion, right? It's just a
Right.
matter of what is it? Is it with God? Is it with a political ideology? Is it your self identity? Is that your religion? Because that happens. Everybody's got this stuff, and everybody has confirmation bias. That's the enemy. You need to fight back against that stuff. You need to fight back against the stuff that tells you, and that's like, I mean, I'm sorry, but yeah, we're not meant to do combat with each other over ideas.
Yeah,
I don't
but
think so. I
I don't either.
and over stuff that is just nonsense. I mean,
Yeah,
frankly, it's just nonsense. And so that tells me you're being manipulated.
right.
You are being manipulated if you're going to take that nonsense and use that as canon to bring ideas and war and all of the madness on other people. It's part of the reason I stopped carrying a gun for a living, because I feel like I just no, I not necessarily that I don't protect myself. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
I got you.
I looked at it as a way of putting my beliefs on others, and I have a problem with it. I'll talk about it all day, but I'm not going to force you to do anything, right?
Yeah, that's
As
the
soon as
wrong
you
way to
put
go
people in
about it.
chains and tell them this is how you're going to think, that's like a re-education camp.
Mm.
Man, that's Nazis, that's Chinese, that's the all the bad things that you could ever
Communism.
think. A lot of people think that's America too, but I beg to differ. That
Yeah,
is not
especially.
America. That is not the way that we should be thinking, period. And open forums like this is where that stuff is hashed out, right?
Yeah,
And you get into a point where you are in a room and you got people that take it physical. To me, that's just that to me is just a sign that you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
yeah. I call it mentally trans. I call them MTIs when I meet those type of people. I tell them they have a mentally transmitted infection,
Yeah,
and you trying to
yeah,
transmit it to me, and I don't want it. And so a lot of people, like you, I can talk to you. I understand you're a Christian and thing. A lot of people I can't, because even if I start questioning, well, and I start like you said, sharing ideas like we just did. A lot of them
yeah,
go, well, is this what you believe? And then you won't even get
yeah,
anywhere when you trying to actually, because in the end, it's all trying to do work. Because once
yeah,
we come to a conclusion of why I should be living like I'm living, then it comes to, I'm living like this because this is the benefit and this is the product of living like that. And then you see the communities, well, you see the individual good, you see that individual's family good, you see the family working amongst the community, and we'll just say that church, that certain church of people, and I know it's not always like that, but I'm
yeah,
just gonna give it to that. This whole church is doing good because they're all doing what the word of God says, and then that church can actually move the community by helping parks, putting programs into play. Then now your community is big enough, people moving in, you can start shopping your ideals. And that, to me, that's what it's all about. When I talk about the conscious community and me sharing my ideas and the things that I come to, because my philosophy comes to accountability. Like we were talking about earlier when I said my end result is the spirit. If I'm fighting the spirit, it's me fighting that which in me that is the driving force to me saying, yes, I'm going to do this or not. I believe that all things are conditional. When you're in a condition and you're in a situation for something to be done or do something, if I'm a father and I don't want my daughter to be handled in the wrong way, I should always be there, because I know if I'm not there or somebody who's not there, this is when those people strike. And if I'm there, those people aren't going to strike with me right there. They're not going to come up and try to grab my daughter and take me. If they doing that, then I know they're not even on no kidnappings. That's something totally different.
yeah.
We have to
That's
figure
even
that.
farther
Yeah.
along.
And so when I look at that, I just say, like, For me, accountability is big, and that's what it is about for everybody. Because once you get your morals set, and while you have those morals, it becomes accountability. And we all see that no matter what we believe. Like you said, you understand what I was talking about when I said it's all comes to me as the individual person making that choice to do said sin, temptation, but good.
Yeah. And folks, it's not easy. I get it. It's hard. It's simple, right? But it's not easy.
At all.
But
At all.
I think you all know, everyone knows right and wrong. They should. And if they don't, man,
It's a long walk.
I feel for you
It's a long walk.
because man, and then you're just gonna, bad things are gonna happen. I mean, bad things always happen.
Oh, love.
You got to be right in who you are, and that's a big deal. That's a big, and again, it's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
So.
Now we remember people. People remember people. Like I know I'm gonna remember you probably forever. Now you my second interview that I've had like this on the debate league. Because like I said, I came in when we was in debate style. We finished that first tournament, and we just decided that those people that's debating, all of us that's debating, we're actually debating our views because we're trying to do something. Like you said, talking about ideas and being able to agree to disagree in a viable way is real for me. That's why I like the debates. That's why I formed my view as an argument, so I could do that. So I won't, because I have lost friends going about my way because they didn't understand, and I didn't even understand it all until I put it in a form. But you know what I'm saying, when you talk to people about it, it's just like I'm having a conversation, but now they think I don't believe in God. And I have just a different form of that entire thing, you know what I'm saying? But in the end, it calls for accountability. So are you upset that I'm asking for accountability? And then it's just like, well, no, punch, if you go to hell, you're going to hell, you know what I'm saying? And then I'm just like, well, then that's my fight. But why are you upset with me that you want to fight me right now and got a chance to kill me? And then that's going to make me go to hell because I didn't have a chance to repent. You didn't change my mind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
That's kind of where I went. But like I said, people remember people. What has surprised you the most about your research?
I think that really that so many people that are in places of power get it wrong. I mean, and how off the rails so many people actually are. And that, I mean, and I'm not talking just power brokers, but unfortunately, we've got people in charge of things that are just, they're there for all the wrong reasons, right? And that, and this encompasses all of it, not just, you know, I'm not blue or red. I try to be as absolutely purple as I can, right? And at the end of the day, so many of these people in power have it wrong and influence. People need to see that for what it is and stop the tribal craziness, right? I mean, you got people that'll fight over what baseball team they like get into a full-blown fist fight, shoot each other. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's all influence from this stuff that I'm talking about. It's the what do they call it in Rome? Bread and circus, right? Unfortunately, I think it's really shown me how much of our reality is bread and circus. And that's by design to keep us fighting each other, because it's one of the things I always say too, is like we talk about these epic movies, right? We see shows like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, like these epic movies, right? Where you've got good versus evil, and choose your genre, right? I'm telling you, if they allowed, and I'm saying they, the proverbial they, right? We all talk about that. The proverbial they, the people in charge, were to make a accurate book of the Bible, that would uncork all kinds of stuff. It would be the most popular movie ever made.
Yeah.
Because people don't see things like Genesis 6. Are you serious? Make a movie about that. Who's not going to watch it and be like, what? Right? It's like Lord of the Rings on steroids.
Gotcha. Book movie about Enoch would be amazing.
Amazing, right? And I'm not talking about like, I mean, even like the one movie they made on Noah with Russell Crowe as Noah. It was still an epic movie, but they tainted it a little bit. There's some things in there I don't necessarily agree with, but again, if they were to take the Bible and turn it into a movie, it would convert more people than anything could, and they're not going to let that happen, right? They're not going to let you see that true story of it. And that happens with a lot of things. So things are manipulated, right? And that's what all this has shown me, is the level of manipulation. I mean, everything. When you get into, I mean, we can go down the conspiracy line and just get crazy, right? But some of that has real legs. And I see the way that, we talk about all kinds of things. And I always can bring it back into the biblical frame, with so much stuff on control and societal compliance. And that totally has to do with the beast system and the mark of the beast and things like that. You can talk about this stuff forever.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
but yeah, sorry about that. Did you?
No, I don't. I feel like I'm veering off track.
No, you fine if you do, man. It's all going to be information, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
When you were talking about manipulation and so I know that's probably one of them. Among manipulation, has anything else ever challenged your own beliefs?
Yeah, I do. So I got into, I wouldn't say I was into occult practices, but it was more like Gnostic stuff. And, there was some pretty compelling evidence to me of, different things, but I had to finally discern where this was all coming from. And it wasn't heading in a good direction for me. So I got away from the more Gnostic stuff and went more, where I'm at now. Yeah. And I don't label myself. Yeah, I'm a Christian, but the only reason I'm a Christian is because the guy I follow's name is Christ.
Gotcha.
And I do not agree. Like, because again, there we go. People try to label people, right? Because it's easy for the human mind to keep people in boxes. So you've got Christians over here and the Muslims over here and the Jews over here and the occultists and the Illuminati people and this, that, and the other thing. Everybody wants to be put, or they want to put everybody in a box because it helps keep them. I refuse to be put in a box. You can put me in a box, but I'm not going to put myself in one. You know what I mean? So that I think goes right along with what you're saying.
Definitely. Ain't putting no boxes over here.
No, I think that's just manipulation, right? Yeah. And I really, really push back against that. I try to. But I'm not perfect either. So
somebody was giving me my flowers the other day, talking about he happy I built my own box. I didn't like the way it sounded. I'm not even putting myself in a box.
Yeah, right. I'd rather just walk through the woods of life, man, and be free to think what I want and be influenced by what I want to, you know.
I'll look at the boxes. I'm not getting in.
Yeah, I'm not hopping in one, because you get stuck in those boxes, right? You can't get out.
Yep. Now, has your work changed you personally? And I know the answer to that, definitely.
Oh yeah, it definitely has. I'm definitely you know, I haven't been in my mind controlled by things in a long time, but it's definitely made me freer, and it just allows me to have conversations with anybody I want, because I try not to have any of those others, you know. Oh, there's the other person, they're black, or they're white, or they're, you know, based on race, or they're based on religion. Like, I don't care. Seriously. Like, I just don't. I push back against as much of that as I can. I don't subscribe to it, and people are people, right? And we're all flawed. So
yeah. After everything you studied, what does give you hope?
That if you follow the Bible, you know where you're going to end up, as long as you do what you're supposed to do with, and it's pretty easy. All you have to do is believe and live the best life that you can, right? You have to follow Jesus. And, I mean, Revelation ends with the dragon and the beastly powers and every hostile spiritual authority judged, right? We started this whole conversation about fallen angels, and the fallen angel story is not a side attraction to Christianity. It is a part of the scale of the problem Christ came to solve, right? And his mission is not only to make private individuals nicer, right? To make people nicer. He confronts the enemy, the accuser, head on, and casts out unclean spirits and announces judgment on the ruler of this world, who you can say is Satan to an extent, right? He's definitely got influence, and he disarms those rulers and the authorities. And I think people need to understand that what was given to me when I was, and I'll call it saved, is authority. And, he's going to reclaim the nations. The gospel is personal to me, but it's also cosmic. Okay. And that is why I do not study this material to glorify the enemy, right? I study it because, and this is where you talked about earlier, like, why do you read what some of the stuff that's not biblical, right? It's because whether or not we want to believe it, our enemy believes it, right? Or the people that work with or for the enemy believe it, okay? And if they're going to believe it, the best way to know your enemy, the best way to fight your enemy is to know your enemy. And I study it because the modern church has sometimes, this is kind of culminating too. I study a lot of this stuff because the modern church reduced the victory of Christ by reducing the world. He came to rescue. Everything's flattened and everything's black and white, and there's no gray, and there's no supernatural anything. And the darker and more populated the biblical rebellion is, to me, the larger the victory of the king becomes. And that's what I really focus on. Is that walk and trying to be in that authority, that you guys can't hurt me with your nonsense, and I rebuke you.
That's
if you're coming at me, I rebuke you. So yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be right back after this with a quick lightning round that I got for fun. Some quick messages, and then we'll get in closing.
Attention all debate fans. You've been watching, you've been arguing, you've been picking sides. But now it's time to level up. From this point forward, all debates on this platform are going members only. That means the hottest clashes, the wildest arguments, and your favorite personalities going head to head will only be available to subscribers. You want real scholarship? You want the smoke? You want the unfiltered action? Then don't get left outside looking in. Sign up today for as low as $3.99 and get full access to every debate, every moment, every knockout argument. This is Titans Debate League, where legends are made and debates get real. Join now or miss out.
That's for our members. Remember, you can get in on that. Show support, like, share, and subscribe too, by the way. Thank everybody that came tonight that's in the chat. I appreciate you so much. Mr. Bennett, I appreciate you.
So do I. I appreciate you too.
Let's have a little quick fun.
Yeah.
Real quick lightning round, just off the top of your head. A book you think everyone should read.
Besides the Bible.
Purpose-driven life.
Yeah, so there's, let me, I can't find it. So there's, man, that's a hard one because there's so many. But the Bible for sure. And then I really, if you want to get, you know what, I'm going to choose a fiction book too. I love, we were talking about Stephen King earlier. You should read The Gunslinger.
The Gunslinger
By Stephen King.
Gotcha. One of our
That'll send you down a rabbit hole. And there's a whole series of books.
Did they start making movies of?
Yeah, they did the Dark Tower series.
I
but
thought so.
this is there's so much allegory in that it does a whole bunch of things. It'll get your mind thinking, right? And then it'll also get you looking at stuff that we've been talking about in a different light. But there's 9 books total, I think, and the Gunslinger is only 200 pages, but some of them are like 900.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just say that, but yeah, I don't know why, but just off the top of my head, that's what popped in. So,
gotcha. Have you ever heard of a waspy?
No.
Okay.
What is it?
A waspy is a religion. It's a book about the creator by an Ohio dentist named Newbro. I wish I could. My mind is so off of topic right now. But I ain't thinking about Oahspe that I can't even.
How do you spell it? Do you know?
Oahspe. It's a history and science book. Yeah, it's amazing. I started.
I don't know, but I will.
Yeah, it's a real wonderful book. We have some of the people. I told you we have different views and things.
Yeah.
And this is one of them. They have a shout out Creator Gang and Cosmo Cal TV. He in the chat though. He been watching. I know he watched because he's a information junkie just like myself. Who's your favorite biblical character?
I'm torn between. I would say King David.
Oh,
and I get it. That's a contentious thing, but I'm actually writing a series of books on this. But he is just a tortured soul, and it's very interesting. It's not just as clear cut as a lot of people think, in my opinion. So,
gotcha.
I mean, Enoch's he's there too, but King David, Solomon's there as well. So
Solomon, yeah, I think that's what I was gonna say. Mine is between Solomon, Melchizedek, but I think I choose Job.
Yeah. Job is pretty
Job.
cool too, and just a great story. But
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's a hard one. But I think right now, at least, it's David. But Solomon's his son,
Gotcha.
so that I get it.
What's the most misunderstood Bible passage in your opinion?
Genesis 6.
Okay. Can you give me a little touch on why? I think you touched on it earlier, but
Yeah, it's just because I think the way that we've been taught to read it is incorrect, and that it is the vital opening to how supernatural the Bible actually is, and how supernatural the world, like the bones of our world, are built on a completely. I mean, we're technically supernatural beings. We live in we have a body, but do you believe that our consciousness goes somewhere when we're done? You know what I mean? It's just one of those. It's just one of those. You gotta it opens the door to so many things. So that's why I say that. You're muted.
I sure was. Thank you for telling me. Who's the most misunderstood historical figure in your view?
Oh, goodness. The most misunderstood historical figure. Question is how deep do I want to get on that? Yeah, man, that's a tough one. That's a real tough one. Because I mean, you could say somebody like Adolf Hitler, and know that so many people, all they see is the evil, right? Which is very true. But I guess the way that I will subscribe to some of this is that every man's terrorist is someone else's freedom fighter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And man, there's so many different people throughout history that you can point at and just know. Yeah, it's wild. But if you take the time to see past the horror of some of these folks, you see why maybe they did it, why they are the way they are, right? So yeah, it's tough. That's a tough one, but I guess you could say there's a multitude of people. But yeah.
From all the stories that I read, I feel the most sorry. I think he was misunderstood was Julius Caesar. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I just feel so
I would
sorry.
agree with that too.
I don't, the history that we get. I know there was other things, of course, that why that happened too. The story that we get when it happened was, but it was basically just disputes about power to me. And
yes.
So I feel every time I think about that story, I think he was misunderstood all the way to his murder because he was trying to do right by so many people, and those people still wanted more.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I can see that point for sure.
What's your most fascinating mystery?
Bigfoot. I don't know why, man. It's because I had such a profound encounter when I was 10 or 11. No, I was 11, but that it changed my whole trajectory of the way I think about the world and look at the world. And I mean, I can say it's real, right? But I don't, it's still a mystery because I don't know the details. I don't know the ifs, ands, or buts about it, that what is it? So yeah, it's simple as that.
Cool. I think my most fascinating mystery is why the Anunnaki needed gold for that environment. Why they didn't take it back.
Right? Yeah.
One topic you still don't have an answer for. I guess that would be.
I mean, I really am it's not confused, but it's yeah. So I guess the big one that I really contemplate and think about a lot is what is our universe? Like, what is that? Because you hear, when you get into this space, you hear so many different things like outer space doesn't exist and this and that and the other thing. And so you're constantly hit with, moon landing is fake and planets are fake and the firmament and all the things. And that is like the real, like, what is this? Right? Are we on a ball hurtling through the universe, or is it something less than that, right? Or more? That is, and that's a big question. But and again, I've talked to astronauts, and they're like, yeah, we left the planet. So it's hard to say, Are they lying? I don't know, man. You know what I'm saying, though. It's tough. That's a tough one. So,
yeah, I think the one thing I would say that I don't have an answer for is why we won't terraform Earth before we start trying to terraform another planet.
Yeah,
that's a big question for me.
Yeah,
I just feel like if we
right.
think that something is
Why
happening,
can't we make the whole planet usable, right?
Right. And if we know we can terraform this planet, then that'll give us more studies when we do go try to start terraforming another planet.
Yep.
But that's neither here nor there. But Mr. Bennett, I want to thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, man. It's been fun.
Thank you so much. Like I said, we're starting to open up a lot about different views, different things, different ideas, so we can find a viable way to persist within existence. Whether someone agrees with every conclusion you've reached or not, conversations like this are valuable because for me, they allow people to hear ideas directly from a person who spent years researching it and spending their time. And that's very important when you do listen to people's views.
Yeah, agreed.
Titans Debate League exists to encourage thoughtful conversations, careful reasoning, and respectful dialogue. And this morning and afternoon certainly added to that mission. So again, thank you for your service and your time and your willingness to share your work for our audience. We appreciate you so much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. I love this stuff. I love talking about this stuff. So it was fun.
Gotcha. And you have an open invitation. And if I ever feel like, because like I said, I like critical thinking. So if I ever want to bring you up, hopefully I can hit that email and you'll have some time.
Whenever you want, I'm an open book, and
feel like you
have my email. So
got you. And I will definitely use that. And to everyone, all my Titans that's fighting to be enlightened, remember to watch for the snakes that's striking and the dogs that's biting. Continue examining the evidence for things that you claim and continue pursuing understanding so you can recognize and persist in a, like I say, coherent manner. And until next time, this has been another featured presentation from Titans Debate League. I see some people on the panel. Bennett, you don't have to stay if you don't like, because I'm going to just end this stream and start another one. We appreciate you. Some of the people that's going to come up probably start asking questions that
Yeah.
I'm sure you wouldn't
And-
want to entertain. Because
Well, and I would love to, but I'm looking at the time and I have another interview at noon. So I gotta.
got you. And we'll have
Yeah.
you back. We'll get all of
No, I would love to come back and actually talk to folks too, and have, I mean, we'll have a debate. It's not even a debate. It's just
a discussion.
We'll have some civil discourse.
Right. That's
Like
what
I
it is.
love to call it. And maybe, yeah, I love to be taught stuff all day long. I love it. So,
well, we appreciate you again, man. And we're going to go ahead and get into this last commercial. And I'm going to talk to A1 and see if he want to open the panel or just start a new stream later. Thank you so much. Let me get this commercial up for us. And if you'd like, you could go ahead and do what you got to do, Mr. Bennett, because I know you're a busy man.
Yeah, I appreciate.
History isn't just written by.
Whoops, my bad. I accidentally started that commercial too soon.
Oh no, I was just saying
that.
Thanks to everybody, and I just want to challenge everybody that if you like what I say, then I'm glad. If not, look at some of the stuff and let me know. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to me at Broadcasting Seeds, and just type it in Broadcasting Seeds and challenge me.
That's what
as long as you're respectful, I'm respectful. So.
Gotcha. Is that the only place that we can find you on Broadcasting Seeds? Where can they find you on social media?
That's the main place, Broadcasting Seeds. The other place that you can see my books is at BennettTantonBooks.com. But other than that, Broadcasting Seeds is the place on everywhere.
Gotcha.
So
all right.
That's it.
Well, thank you so much, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you guys too. And again, thank you. And I hope to do it again.
Yes, we would definitely make sure we line something up.
Absolutely. All right. Take care.
You too.
Coliseum of Arguments presents Titans Debate League, Clash of the Titans 1.1. The arena is opening once again, and only the strongest minds will survive. After an unforgettable first tournament, Pandemus the African Atheist fought through the battlefield of ideas and walked away with $500 in cash. But that was then. This time we're raising the stakes. $1,000, one champion, one title, one chance to prove you're the greatest debater in the league. This isn't social media arguing. This isn't trolling in the comments. This is intellectual warfare, where evidence is your weapon, logic is your shield, and every round is a fight for survival. New challengers are stepping into the arena. Veteran fan favorites are returning. Egos will fall, legends will rise. The question is, do you have what it takes to survive the Coliseum? We still have a few tournament spots available. Think you belong among the Titans? Message TitansDebateLeague@gmail.com and claim your place before the gates close. Coliseum of Arguments presents Titans Debate League, Clash of the Titans 1.1, where great minds don't just debate, they go to war. Are you not entertained? Coliseum of Arguments, only the brave speak here.
Put in the chat, man, if somebody want to come up and talk. If not, I'm going to end this. I want to listen to a song or two.
Listen close. I don't believe in ghosts, even though I tried. I recognize the patterns when they form inside the mind. Ignorance ain't the crime. It's refusing truth when truth arrives. We got the topic, get the line. Debate you anytime. That's fine. You done crossed the line. Drop the claim without a spine. Bring your thoughts, I find the incoherence. book you every time. Recognize I can see the fallacy before the sentence finished. You confuse a strong opinion with a reason proposition. You keep reaching for conclusions, but your premises are missing. Then you hide behind your feelings when the logic need a mission. I don't argue with a person, I examine what was stated, define the terms, expose assumptions, then determine what was weighted. Is it valid? Is it grounded? Can the structure be defended? Or you built a house of cards and got offended when it ended? I don't need to raise my voice, I let the contradiction speak. Every claim has got a burden, every burden got a receipt. You can decorate confusion, you can dress it up in pride, but a polished contradiction is a contradiction every time. I just opened up my eyes, cause I heard the cry, filtered through the lies. Listen close, I don't believe in ghosts, even though I tried. I recognize the patterns when they form inside the mind. Ignorance ain't the crime, it's refusing truth when truth arrives. We got the topic, give the line, debate you anytime. That's fine. You done crossed the line. Drop the claim without a spine. Bring your thoughts, I find the incoherence. Book you every time. I recognize the dodge when the question make you nervous. Changing subjects every minute doesn't make the answer surface. That's a straw man, that's a false choice. That's an argument from fear. That's a claim that keeps on shrinking every time the facts get near. You can quote 100 scholars, still authority ain't proof. Tell me why the argument is sound. Take me underneath the roof. Show the beam, show the frame, show the function of the claim. If the meaning keeps on changing, then the word is just a game. Recognition over belief, coherence over applause. I don't need a crowd behind me when the reasoning is flaws. Time reveals what can I stand, nature limits what can be. If your worldview breaks beneath this weight, don't put the blame on me. I just opened up my eyes, cause I heard the cries, filtered through the lies. Listen close, I don't believe in ghosts, even though I tried. I recognize the patterns when they form inside the mind. Ignorance ain't the crime, it's refusing truth when truth arrives. We got the topic, give the line, debate you anytime. That's fine. You done crossed the line. Drop the claim without a spine. Bring your thoughts, I find the incoherence. Book you every time. They want mystery to rescue every gap that never filled. Then call questions disrespectful when their explanation gets grilled. But a question is a mirror, it reflects what you provide. If the answer disappears, there was nowhere left to hide. I recognize the pattern, first they claim and then retreat. First they speak in absolutes, then change the meaning when we meet. First they tell me it is certain, then they say it could be true. Then they say nobody knows, there's 3 positions, pick a view. I'm not chasing every bird just because it learned to chirp. Some ideas take a flight, some ideas hit the dirt. This is bird droppings, every record leaves a sign. I recognize the incoherence. Book you every time. I just opened up my eyes, cause I heard the cries, filtered through the lies. Listen close, I don't believe in ghosts, even though I tried. I recognize the patterns when they form inside the mind. Ignorance ain't the crime, it's refusing truth when truth arrives. We got the topic, give the line, debate you anytime. That's fine. You done crossed the line. Drop the plane without a spine. Bring your thoughts, I find the incoherence. Book you every time. Recognize them. Recognize them.
Let's pause the noise for a second, because if you're still here right now, you're already different. Not everyone gets this. Not everyone understands real debate, real scholarship, real intellectual smoke. But you do. This is Coliseum of Arguments. This is Titans Debate League. And what happens here doesn't survive on algorithms. It survives on the people who believe in it. When you support through Cash App, you're not just donating. You're fueling the arena. You're the reason we can bring in high-level guests. You're the reason we keep unbiased judges. You're the reason these debates stay sharp, fair, and uncompromised. This platform is built by thinkers, sustained by supporters, protected by the ones who know value when they see it. If this show has ever sharpened your mind, has ever entertained you, or has ever challenged what you thought you knew, then Cash App is how you say, keep this going. Not everyone contributes, but the ones who do, they're part of what makes this real. Coliseum of Arguments, Titans Debate League, powered by the people who get it.
My heart is bleeding in a pool of blood, I'm drowning. Yeah, my heart is bleeding in a pool of blood, I'm drowning. I look in the mirror.